26. My father had a special way with people. His warm smile and relaxed manner immediately made them feel comfortable. He always said the right word at the right moment. For years, I was convinced that his success with people was due to his speaking skills. Before I went off to college, my father gave me some advice that surprised me. The key to success, he told me, is being a good speaker and a better listener. Then he explained why. You learn more from listening than from talking. If you are a good listener, people will feel at ease with you and will open their hearts. For me, these wise words have been invaluable. In graduate school, I was given the same advice from a professor who was one of the world's most famous linguistic scholars. He defined listening as a social responsibility which promotes communication. When you listen, he told me, you receive and then process the other person's spoken message. Your willingness to open a dialogue creates the miracle of communication. At first, I was surprised by my professor's comment. Communication, speaking was more important than listening. Perhaps I had reached this. I had always thought that in conclusion, because speaking is active while listening is passive. Thanks to my professor's explanation, however, I learned that listening is a powerful social tool which can create, distort, or destroy communication. Unfortunately, most women and men do not learn this skill. Only a few realize that listening is a social responsibility. Poor listeners are socially irresponsible because they stop or block communication. You probably know people who do not listen. They never stop talking. If you try to say a word, they do not listen, or they interrupt you in a loud voice. They are not interested in communication. They just want to be the center of attention. Quite simply, poor listeners are self-centered. Many social problems stem from the behavior of women and men who are poor listeners. If they stopped talking so much and started listening to each other, they could open a dialogue. It is amazing how many problems can be solved when people communicate. I am grateful to both my father and my professor for teaching me why it is important to be a responsible listener. I hope that this lesson will help you too. 27. The question has often been asked why the Wright brothers were able to succeed in an effort in which so many others had failed. Many explanations have been offered, but 3 reasons are most often cited. First, they were a team. Both men worked well together, read the same books, located and shared information, talked constantly about the possibility of manned flight, and served as a consistent source of inspiration and encouragement to each other. Quite simply, 2 geniuses are better than 1. They were also both glider pilots. Unlike some other engineers who experimented with the theories of flight, Orville and Wilbur Wright experienced the practical side of their work by building and flying gliders. Each one was slightly better than the last, incorporating in it the knowledge that they had gained from previous failures. They had realized from their experiments that the most serious problem in manned flight would be stabilizing and maneuvering the aircraft once it had taken off. While others concentrated their efforts on the problem of achieving lift for takeoff, the Wright brothers focused on developing a 3-axis control for their aircraft. By the time the brothers started to build an airplane, they were already among the best glider pilots in the world, and they knew the problems of flying firsthand. In addition, the Wright brothers had designed more effective wings for the airplane than had been previously engineered. Using a wind tunnel, they tested more than 200 different wing designs, recording the effects of slight variations in shape on the pressure of air on the wings. The data from these experiments allowed the Wright brothers to construct a superior wing for their plane. In spite of all these advantages, however, the Wright brothers might not have succeeded had they not been born at precisely the right moment in history. Attempts to achieve manned flight in the early 19th century were doomed because the steam engines that powered the aircraft were too heavy in proportion to the power that they produced. But by the end of the 19th century, when the brothers were experimenting with engineering options, a relatively light gasoline engine had already been invented, and they were able to bring the ratio of weight to power within acceptable limits for flight. 28. Reading and writing have long been thought of as skills supporting each other. To read is to recognize and interpret language that has been written. To write is to plan and produce language so that it can be read. It is therefore assumed that being able to read implies being able to write or, at least, being able to spell. Often, children are taught to read but given no formal lessons in spelling. It is felt that spelling will be learned in a natural or spontaneous process. The attitude has its counterpart in the methods of 200 years ago, when teachers carefully taught spelling and assumed that reading would follow automatically. Recent research into spelling errors has begun to show that things are not so simple as you might think. There is no necessary link between reading and writing. Good readers do not always make good writers. Nor is there any necessary link between reading and spelling. There are many people who have no difficulty in reading, but who have a major handicap in spelling. Some researchers have estimated that this may be as many as 2% of the population. With children, too, there is evidence that knowledge of reading does not automatically transfer to spelling. If there were a close relationship, children would be able to read and spell the same words, but this is not so. It is common to find children who can read far better than they can spell. More surprisingly, the reverse happens with some children in the early stages of reading. One study gave children the same list of words to read and to spell. Several actually spelled more words correctly than they were able to read correctly. 29. It is no secret that humans play favorites when it comes to the life or death of a species. We rate animals and plants based on our use for them. If they are more valuable to us dead than alive, we kill them. We, as a species, see animals or plants as valuable if they give us food or medicine, or if they are beautiful or cute. We often measure these values on the basis of money. Perhaps it is not right to put a price on animals or plants, but that is what we do. Humans also value species if they are similar to us. In terms of animals, we value mammals over birds, birds over fish, fish over reptiles, and reptiles over insects. In addition, we value animals more than plants. It is very difficult to find support to save a species of shark or a kind of grass. People do not like sharks, and grass does not walk around or show feelings, so we think it's okay to let them become extinct. The reality is, it's not okay to allow them to become extinct. Although sharks are not really important to humans, they are important to other animals and plants. They are important to the ecosystem in which they live. If they die out, the ecosystem will become unbalanced. An unbalanced ecosystem puts other animals at risk. If we kill enough animals, it will eventually affect humans as well. The gorilla is a perfect example of how humans play favorites with popular animals. In the entire world, there is no species that is more like us than the gorilla. For many years, however, they were hunted for sport and for food. The gorilla was used for human entertainment, turned into a monster in movies like King Kong. People take their land away. Even today in Cameroon, where they are protected, people see gorillas as more valuable dead than alive. 30. There is a very close relationship between vocabulary and success. One study showed that successful people in the United States of America always had one thing in common: a strong vocabulary. The study tested the vocabularies of thousands of people from all age groups and backgrounds. It was discovered that the people who had the highest salaries also had the highest vocabularies. When asked to explain the results of this study, the director of the study group said, "Words are the tools of thought. We think with words, we communicate our ideas to others with words, and we understand the ideas of others with words. The more words we know, the better we can explain and understand. It is this ability to explain and understand that makes leaders." Another example of the connection between a strong vocabulary and success can be seen in a study of university students. Half of the students were put into special classes where they studied only to improve their vocabulary. The other students were put into regular classes. The group of students who studied only to improve their vocabulary got higher grades in their second, third, and fourth years at the university than did the students who had been placed in the regular classes. The bigger your vocabulary is, the better your chances for success are at school, in your profession, or your business. And the best part is that you can increase your vocabulary quickly and easily, much more easily than you thought you could. All you need to do is spend a few minutes each day studying and reviewing. Within 2 or 3 months, you will notice a big improvement in your vocabulary power.